This list contains major spoilers, because we are breaking down 10 horror movies where the attacker looked at someone, saw easy prey, and chose completely wrong. Number 10. Wait Until Dark. In Wait Until Dark, three criminals target Susie Hendricks, a blind woman living in a Greenwich Village apartment. They are searching for a doll filled with heroin that was unknowingly brought home by Susie's husband, Sam. Rote, the criminal controlling the operation, sends Mike Talman and Carlino into the apartment under different identities. Together, they construct an elaborate story designed to frighten Susie, confuse her, and convince her that her husband may be connected to a murder. Their entire plan depends on one belief. Because Susie cannot see them, she cannot expose them. That is where they underestimate her. Susie may not be able to study their faces, but she can hear their voices. She notices where people stand, how they move, what objects have been disturbed, and which details in their stories fail to match. The criminals keep changing costumes and identities, apparently forgetting that disguises have limited value against someone who recognizes them by sound. Susie eventually discovers that the telephone number Mike gave her belongs to a phone booth across the street. That confirms that the supposedly unrelated visitors are working together. By the time Rote confronts her alone, Susie understands exactly what his advantage is. He can see her while she cannot see him. So she destroys every light in the apartment. The darkness that was supposed to make Susie helpless takes away Rote's greatest advantage. She knows the room through memory and touch. He suddenly has to move through unfamiliar territory without being able to see. Rote believed he was entering the home of a defenseless woman. Instead, he followed her into the one environment where they could finally fight as equals. And unlike him, Susie already knew where everything was. That is what makes the reversal so effective. Susie does not magically overcome her blindness. She survives by recognizing what she knows better than her attacker and forcing him to fight on those terms. Number 9. Hard Candy. Jeff from Hard Candy believes he is meeting a 14-year-old girl named Haley after talking to her online. They meet at a coffee shop, and Jeff soon invites her back to his house. He's an adult photographer surrounded by expensive equipment, carefully chosen artwork, and photographs of young models. Haley appears energetic, talkative, and impressed by him. Jeff treats her youth as proof that he controls the situation. What he does not realize is that Haley has been controlling the encounter from the beginning. After reaching his house, she drugs him. Jeff wakes up restrained as Haley reveals that she believes he preys on teenage girls and may be connected to the disappearance of another girl. From that point forward, the film becomes a psychological struggle rather than a simple revenge fantasy. Jeff tries anger, charm, denial, bargaining, and intimidation. He repeatedly changes his approach because he still believes Haley must eventually behave like the frightened child he expected to meet. But Haley arrived with a plan. She examines his home, searches his files, and watches his reactions closely. Even when Jeff attempts to manipulate her sympathy, she refuses to let him reset the relationship to one where he is the experienced adult and she is the confused teenager. The most important reversal happens before Jeff is physically restrained. It happens when he decides Haley's performance is genuine. He sees her apparent attraction as evidence of innocence. He interprets her jokes and nervous energy as signs that she has no idea what she is walking into. In reality, she is studying him. The film deliberately creates moral discomfort around Haley's actions, but Jeff's original decision is not ambiguous. He willingly takes a 14-year-old he met online into his private home, convinced her age makes her easier to control. He thinks he chose someone who would never challenge him. Instead, he chose the person who had already built the entire evening around exposing him. Number 8. You're Next. The attackers in You're Next have prepared for almost everything. The wealthy Davison family has gathered at an isolated country house to celebrate a wedding anniversary. During dinner, masked killers begin firing crossbow bolts through the windows. The attack is organized to create panic. The phone signal is disrupted. The exits are watched. Anyone who runs outside becomes a target. The family members argue, freeze, or make desperate decisions. Then there is Erin. Erin is only at the gathering because she is dating Crispian, one of the Davison sons. To the attackers, she appears to be another unimportant guest trapped inside a family dispute. They have researched the house, coordinated their weapons, and prepared escape routes, but they know almost nothing about her. Erin grew up in a survivalist environment. When the attack begins, she does not respond like the killers expect. While everyone else concentrates on the person who has just been injured, Erin studies where the shot came from. She moves people away from exposed windows, checks the exits, and starts looking for objects that can be used defensively. She does not waste time pretending the situation is less serious than it is. Soon, the house begins changing. Windows become traps, doorways become warning systems, kitchen equipment becomes weaponry. The attackers entered expecting to control the building, but Erin gradually turns every room into a problem they must solve. The conspiracy is eventually revealed to involve members of the Davison family. Felix, Z, and Crispian helped arrange the murders so they could inherit the family fortune. That makes their failure even more embarrassing. Crispian brought Erin into the house himself. He was involved in planning the deaths of his own family, yet apparently never considered that his girlfriend might be capable of fighting back. The masked men were prepared to murder frightened civilians. They were much less effective against someone who remained calm, recognized patterns, and responded with equal force. They planned a massacre. Crispian accidentally invited the person who would dismantle it. Number 7. No One Lives. The criminals in No One Lives make the mistake of believing they are the most dangerous people on the road. A violent gang intercepts a man known only as Driver and the woman traveling with him. The gang sees an expensive vehicle, quiet behavior, and two people who appear unlikely to resist. To them, it looks like an easy robbery. Then, one of the gang members kills the woman. When they search Driver's car, they discover another captive hidden inside, Emma Ward, a missing heiress who was abducted during a massacre. That is when the criminals realize Driver is not a wealthy traveler. He is the serial killer responsible for Emma's disappearance. Driver escapes and begins hunting the gang through their own territory. He studies how they communicate, where they hide, and which members are likely to turn against one another. The gang initially responds with disbelief. These are people accustomed to intimidating strangers and taking whatever they want. They assume violence belongs to them because they are usually the ones who begin it. Driver proves that starting a confrontation does not make someone the most capable person involved. Unlike many films on this list, the reversal is not heroic. Driver is not a misunderstood survivor protecting his family. He is a calculated murderer whose crimes are worse than those of many of the people who abduct him. That makes the gang's mistake darker. They did not select an innocent person who suddenly discovered courage. They selected another predator, without understanding where they stood in the hierarchy. Their numbers do not help them because Driver is patient. He isolates them, manipulates their fear, and forces them to experience the same helplessness they intended to inflict on him. The gang looked at a restrained, well-dressed stranger and assumed calmness meant weakness. It actually meant he had no reason to panic. They thought they were kidnapping prey. They had interrupted a killer. Number 6. Don't Breathe. The three thieves in Don't Breathe believe they have found the perfect target. Rocky, Alex, and Money learn that a blind veteran is living alone in an isolated Detroit neighborhood. They also believe he received a large financial settlement after his daughter was killed in a car accident. To Money, the robbery sounds almost risk-free. The man cannot see them. The surrounding houses are abandoned. Help is unlikely to arrive quickly, and the money is supposedly being kept inside. Their reasoning reduces the man to one characteristic: blindness. Once they enter the house, they discover that he knows the building far better than they do. He recognizes changes in the environment, responds to vibrations and sound, and moves through the rooms with practiced confidence. When the lights go out, the thieves lose the visual advantage they assumed would protect them. The blind man has another advantage they ignored. He is a military veteran who is physically strong, disciplined, and capable of responding with lethal force. Money attempts to intimidate him with a gun, but the confrontation ends almost immediately. From that moment, the intruders are no longer stealing from a helpless homeowner. They are trapped inside a sealed building with someone actively searching for them. The reversal becomes more disturbing when Rocky and Alex discover that the blind man has imprisoned the woman responsible for his daughter's death. This revelation prevents the film from becoming a simple story about a homeowner defending himself. The intruders are criminals, but the person they chose is hiding crimes of his own. That moral ugliness is part of what makes the premise work. Rocky and the others believe blindness automatically means vulnerability. The blind man believes his suffering gives him permission to control other people. Everyone enters the house with a justification, but the thieves' practical mistake is undeniable. They selected a target based entirely on what he lacked, without investigating what he could do. They expected an empty neighborhood to protect them from witnesses. Instead, it protected him from interruption. Number 5. Hush. The masked killer in Hush does not initially treat Maddie as a serious opponent. Maddie's a deaf writer living alone in a house surrounded by woods. After killing her neighbor Sarah outside, the attacker realizes Maddie cannot hear what has happened only a few feet away. Instead of leaving or attacking immediately, he turns the situation into a game. He steals Maddie's phone, photographs her through the window, and sends the images back to her. Once she has seen his face, he removes his mask because he believes she will not survive long enough to identify him. That decision reveals his greatest weakness. He is not only trying to kill Maddie, he wants her to understand that he has control. He wants to frighten her, observe her reactions, and decide when the final attack will happen. His need to perform gives Maddie time. She locks the doors, studies his movements, and tests different ways to escape. As a writer, she begins imagining possible outcomes before choosing what to do. The film visualizes her mentally examining plans and recognizing how each one might end. The killer expects Maddie's deafness to make her unaware of the environment. Instead, she watches constantly. She uses reflections, light, vibration, and visual changes to compensate for what she cannot hear. She activates the car alarm, uses her smoke alarm, and later sprays the attacker with insecticide before triggering the alarm's flashing light and sound at close range. Maddie is still at a disadvantage. The film never pretends otherwise. She becomes injured, makes mistakes, and repeatedly comes close to death. But the attacker's confidence slowly collapses because she refuses to behave like a passive participant in his game. By removing his mask, he gives her a clear reason to believe he intends to kill her, regardless of what she does. By delaying the attack, he gives her time to understand him. He sees silence as emptiness. Maddie turns it into concentration. Number 4. Intruders. The burglars and intruders believe Anna's mental illness guarantees that she cannot resist them. Anna has severe agoraphobia and has remained inside her family home for years. After her brother Conrad dies, she is unable to force herself through the front door, even to attend his funeral. 3 men break into the house expecting it to be empty while Anna is away. Instead, they find her hiding inside. The discovery does not immediately frighten them. It makes them more confident. They realize Anna is so terrified of leaving the house that even an open door does not offer her a usable escape route. To the burglars, she appears trapped by her own mind. They begin searching for money and debating what to do with the only witness who can identify them. One of the intruders treats Anna with particular cruelty, believing she is too frightened and unstable to fight back. Then, Anna reaches the basement. A concealed mechanism removes the stairs, leaving the men trapped below. Hidden rooms, reinforced doors, and observation spaces reveal that the house is not simply Anna's prison. It is a prison she understands how to control. The intruders entered, believing their victim's refusal to leave made her powerless. In reality, remaining inside for years has made Anna intimately familiar with every passage, lock, and concealed feature. Her history is far darker than they expected, and her response becomes increasingly ruthless. Anna is not presented as an uncomplicated hero. The house contains evidence of violence that began long before the burglars arrived. As in, no one lives and don't breathe, the reversal forces the attackers to confront someone whose capacity for cruelty may equal or exceed their own. The men believe they are invading the home of an isolated woman. They are actually entering a structure designed to hold people who are not supposed to escape. Anna cannot bring herself to leave the house. Fortunately for her, neither can they. Number 3. Revenge. The three men in Revenge do not merely underestimate Jen's strength. They treat her as if her choices do not matter. Jen travels to a secluded desert house with Richard, a wealthy married man with whom she is having an affair. Richard expects them to be alone, but his hunting partners, Stan and Dmitri, arrive early. After a night of drinking and dancing, Stan interprets Jen's friendliness as permission to pursue her. When she rejects him the next morning, he assaults her. Dmitri witnesses what is happening, but refuses to intervene. Richard returns and learns what happened. Instead of helping Jen, he attempts to buy her silence. When she threatens to expose the affair to his wife, she runs into the desert. The three men pursue her to a cliff. Richard pretends he is finally going to help, then pushes her over the edge. Jen falls and is impaled on a tree. The men look down, decide she must be dead, and return to the house. That assumption destroys them. Jen survives the fall, frees herself, and begins moving through the desert. When the men discover that her body is missing, the hunting trip changes direction. Their equipment initially gives them the advantage. They have vehicles, rifles, water, and knowledge of the surrounding area. But they are also arrogant, divided, and unwilling to accept responsibility. They argue over who caused the situation, while Jen focuses entirely on surviving it. Dmitri is the first to find her, but his confidence allows her to take his weapon. Stan follows her in a vehicle, only to be drawn into a violent confrontation that she controls. Richard eventually retreats to the house, where the story began. By then, the balance of power has completely reversed. He is frightened, wounded, and moving through rooms that no longer feel secure. The men's error was not simply believing Jen died from the fall. They had underestimated her long before that. They saw her appearance, her sexuality, and her relationship with Richard, and assumed she existed for their approval. Her boundaries were treated as temporary obstacles. Her anger was treated as an inconvenience. Her life was treated as something Richard could discard to protect his marriage. Jen's survival forces them to confront the person they repeatedly refuse to recognize. Their hunting trip ends because the woman they attempted to erase begins hunting them instead. Number 2. Ready or Not. The Ladomas family in Ready or Not believes generations of wealth and tradition have made them untouchable. Grace marries Alex Ladomas and joins his eccentric family at their enormous estate. After the wedding, she is told that every new family member must participate in a game chosen by a mysterious box. Grace draws hide and seek. She initially thinks the tradition is harmless. While she hides, the family arms itself with antique guns, axes, crossbows, and other weapons. They believe that if they fail to kill Grace before sunrise, the family will die because of an old agreement with a mysterious figure named Labail. Grace begins the night believing she has finally gained the family she always wanted. The Ladomas family interprets that desire as weakness. She is alone, unfamiliar with the mansion, and emotionally attached to Alex. They expect confusion and betrayal to keep her under control. What they fail to recognize is how quickly Grace can adapt. Once she realizes the game is real, she stops treating the family's traditions with respect. Her wedding dress is ripped apart so she can move. Furniture becomes cover. Service passages become escape routes. Valuable objects become weapons. The family has every material advantage, but most of them are remarkably incompetent. They are accustomed to servants, inherited status, and rituals that have never required them to develop practical survival skills. Several relatives barely know how to use the weapons they carry. Grace learns more during one night than some of them have learned in their entire lives. Alex could have helped her from the beginning. Instead, he hesitates, hides information, and ultimately chooses his family when he believes Grace will never forgive him. That final betrayal removes the last reason she had to protect him. By sunrise, the Ladomas family discovers that the curse was real. One by one, they violently explode because they failed to complete the sacrifice. Grace survives the night bloodied, exhausted, and sitting outside the burning mansion. The family assumes she was desperate to become one of them. Their mistake was giving her enough time to understand what they really were. Number 1. The Hunt. No film fits the idea of choosing the wrong victim more literally than The Hunt. A group of wealthy elites abducts several people and transports them to Croatia, where they plan to hunt them for sport. The operation begins as revenge for an online controversy known as Manorgate. A private group message in which the elites joked about hunting people was leaked. Internet users believed the messages described a real conspiracy, and the resulting scandal damaged the careers of those involved. Instead of proving the conspiracy false, the elites decide to make it real. Their targets are selected through online posts and profiles. They reduce each person to political opinions, offensive comments, and stereotypes. Among the people they abduct is Crystal. From the moment the hunt begins, she behaves differently from the other captives. She does not rush toward the weapons without examining the situation. She notices when supposedly innocent people appear too calm. She studies prices, accents, vehicles, and small inconsistencies that reveal the environment has been staged. Crystal also has military experience. The hunters have money, surveillance equipment, and carefully prepared traps. But most of them have treated the event like a fantasy. They have trained briefly and surrounded themselves with people who reinforce their confidence. Crystal has experienced real danger. She begins dismantling the operation and eventually reaches Athena, the woman who organized the hunt. Athena confronts Crystal with an online post she believes Crystal wrote. She describes personal details from the profile and expects Crystal to recognize them. Crystal does not. She explains that Athena abducted the wrong person. There is another woman from the same town with almost the same name. Athena selected Crystal because of a database error involving their similar identities and differently spelled middle names. Athena refuses to verify the claim. That response reveals the real theme of the movie. The hunters believe they are intellectually superior, but their entire plan is built on assumptions they never seriously question. They believed anonymous posts told them everything about their victims. They believed political labels predicted how those people would behave. They believed expensive training could replace experience. And after kidnapping an innocent woman through mistaken identity, Athena still cares more about being right than discovering the truth. Crystal defeats the hunters because she refuses to accept the reality they built for her. She questions every performance, every explanation, and every person claiming to offer help. The elites wanted to punish strangers for believing an unverified conspiracy. Then they constructed an entire human hunt without confirming that they had captured the correct Crystal. That is not simply choosing the wrong victim. That is building the perfect plan around the wrong person.